From the studios of the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, welcome to Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Silveria Jacobs.
Welcome to Prime Minister Talks. I'm Silveria Jacobs, and today I have as guest bringing you information from the Department of Transportation and Telecommunication. Head of that department, Ms. Valia Pontiflet. Valia, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here. A couple of weeks ago, we had the SG of TIAT, Mr. Miguel De Weaver, on. He was giving a lot of information on the whole increase of the basket of goods and some of the other challenges that we have, that you face on a daily basis. So maybe it's good if you can tell the people of St. Martin what it is the department you run is actually dealing with and what you do.
Well, okay, so let me just introduce myself. My name again is Valia Pontiflet, and I'm the head of the Department of ETT, which is basically the policy department of the Ministry of TIAT. We basically deal with anything related to legislation, regulations, so price regulations, that's what we're basically busy with at the moment. It has high priority. Mm-hmm. We also have had some legislative amendments that we've pushed through, such as, for example, the driving exams, the automated transmission vehicles that we are able to do now, or will be able to do exams in automatic transmission vehicles. Yes.
So you're the policy department. And
Correct.
I think a lot of people, they don't necessarily know the difference between a Dienst and a department, or between an executing office versus the one that does the policies that the rest have to follow. Mm-hmm. So you're heavy because you're the only policy department in the Ministry of TIAT.
Correct.
Right. So when people talk and fuss about price, talk about how we get even the tax regulation, excise, and all of that falls by you?
Well, the taxes generally fall under the Ministry of Finance, but we do have an advisory role. Because it is tied to business development as well, so all of those business-related taxes, we do have an advisory role on fiscal reform, for example. Yes.
Oh, wow. I think a lot of people wouldn't have known that. And recently, in a discussion that we had with Miguel, we talked about the whole basket of goods. Mm-hmm. And you came to the Council of Ministers with your team and you presented that information. Mm-hmm. So what is the process that you would have followed as a department to come up with the need to expand the basket? Okay.
Well, the request to expand the basket has been coming to our department for years already. Basically, as a ministry, we are on the fence about the whole maximum price system because we have recently done a study where it was confirmed that maximum price systems are really supposed to be used for a crisis situation, so emergency situations. It's not something that we can adopt long term. But I think it's important for the population to know that we are in a crisis situation and we are experiencing, among others, a food crisis. And so we felt that it was necessary to expand the basket of goods, albeit possibly for a temporary nature. We're not sure yet. We're going to have to monitor and see. But we needed to be able to give the population some relief in that way. So we did expand the basket, and so we looked at, for example, what did the relief goods consist of? So the baskets that were being given out to families during COVID, for example, we looked at those items and we said, okay, well, between us and VSA, the Ministry of Health, what would make a good basket for now? Obviously, we can adjust the basket moving forward, but for now it was decided to go with these items. And we did consult with the supermarkets and the importers, and up to recently, they confirmed that they were okay with the amount of the basket that we put in the basket.
So they didn't see it as a deterrent and it would cause them challenges to maintain their business?
Well, there are challenges, and we discussed those challenges. And one of those challenges are that, right now, given the crisis, prices are very volatile. So prices are changing weekly. So in order for us to be able to keep up with those price changes, they see that as a challenge. So we're busy discussing some options right now on how we could best work on the longer term, where TIA doesn't have to put in as much heavy work to constantly update prices, and where they also can feel comfortable in knowing that they will not have to sell goods at a loss.
So do you think that the general population is aware of, for instance, you hear the complaints about the rising prices, how much that is influenced by our external, by us being an import community, that we rely almost for 100% on everything being imported?
Yeah, I don't think the community or the population really understands that, yes, in Martin, we literally produce, I don't want to say nothing, but very little. And whatever we do produce, it cannot sustain us at this moment. So we are very much dependent on everything from food to clothing, to gas, everything across the board. And so if you look at, for example, one of the components of anything, it's freight, shipping. And shipping has gone through the roof. So that's why you would see across the board that all prices have increased. And it's not necessarily, as many may claim, that the business owners are inflating prices, ridiculously inflating prices. We will know that in time as we collect the invoices, but for now, it is important for them to understand that this is a worldwide problem, and every country is reporting high prices because of the developments globally.
I think that's good for you to share with the audience. I mean, of course, who feeling it. And with the way salaries are also set up, it would be very, very difficult, because I see how the prices go. Controls, you mentioned having the max price as a way of regulating, but I think seeing that we're running out of time in this thing, we're coming to that in the second one. I'll end this segment now, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about how inspection works to ensure the regulation of prices is adhered to. So if you're just joining us, this is Prime Minister Talks, and I'm here having a very interesting discussion with Head of Department of Economy, Transportation and Telecommunication, Ms. Valia Pantaflet. Come back for more information.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
It's hurricane season. Are you prepared? Here are a few tips to remember to help keep you and your family safe. 6 hours before hurricane strikes, remember, if you're not in an area that is recommended for evacuation, plan to stay at home or where you are and let friends and family know where you're located. Close storm shutters and stay away from windows. Flying glass from broken windows could injure you. Turn your refrigerator or freezer to the coldest setting and only open it when necessary. If you lose power, food will last longer. Keep a thermometer in the refrigerator to be able to check the food temperature when the power is restored. For the latest weather updates and emergency instructions, turn on your TV and/or radio and visit stmartingov.org. This hurricane season, remember, it only takes one. This public service announcement was brought to you by the government of St. Martin.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
Welcome back to Prime Minister Talks. I'm talking to Valia Pantaflet, head of ETT. Let's stick with that so I can be safe. And talking about the different policies, regulations that you have to work on. In our break, we were talking a little bit about the max price and how you come to that. And I know we talked about it with Miguel, but I think you're the ones actually doing the work. In the sense of how it was calculated before and the goal in terms of how we want to calculate it.
Right. Okay, so as explained in the press release, we basically have always calculated it based on the average of the prices observed on the shelves. We have always had an issue collecting invoices from the importers, but recently we kind of had a shift. So there was some good news to relay, in which they are now They are now providing providing their invoices. We initially used customs to kind of strong arm it a bit using their authority, but now we have met with them and they're willing to provide their invoices for us to be able to calculate the prices based on their cost price. So that's something that we're actually busy recalculating all of the prices that we had initially sent for approval. And once that is done, then we will be publishing the maximum price list, the new basket of goods.
Right. So I think the public does get a little bit impatient with us when we make announcements of things and then they don't happen the next day.
Right.
So legislation is a thing that has to go through a process. Even though the Council of Ministers approved it, now that you have, it doesn't make sense for us to launch those prices and then the following week they change based on now the correct invoices being brought in. So I'm very happy from a couple of weeks ago to now to hear that they're voluntarily submitting invoices. So it's based on what they import the goods at.
Correct.
Right. So that gives us a better view. And now you will see then also, if you look at, maybe you can even get a comparison as to what it was before to see what the increase is on their end.
Right. And it also helps us with statistics because then we can see how price is really developing based on what they're importing.
Right, right. Is there a price buildup or like we have with the gasoline that government regulates as well or no?
No, and that's very difficult to do because everyone imports at different times from different suppliers. So with gas, for example, we have one objective point that we get the international posting price from, and then we build up based on that. But for supermarkets or imported consumer goods, that's it's difficult.
It's difficult. So there's no set formula for what the markup should or could be.
Unfortunately not.
But in determining our max price, we will determine that.
Yeah, so we would add margins to the cost price. And those margins...
For the importers.
Correct. So the margin would be, we're still in discussions on a wholesale and retail level. But you know, some wholesalers are also retailers. So those are the little kinks we have to work out before we really put it out there.
So we can expect within short to see the new max price list for the 72 goods, and it would be then based on, you're saying, the actual price of import of said goods.
Correct.
Great, great. I'm looking forward to that, as is the public, I'm sure, because I think the goal is to bring relief to the people of St. Martin.
Agreed.
And do you see this as then something that, you said temporary. How temporary would it be, seeing that the type of a crisis we're in?
Again, no one knows when the crisis is going to end. I mean, a lot of it is fueled by the war in Russia, in the Ukraine. Sorry. So we all say temporary, but we don't have a time frame of whether it's 6 months, a year. We don't know. We just have to work with the importers to make sure that, you know, they're also not losing. We don't want to create a situation where they're forced to not bring in goods because they're importing at a loss. So we want to make sure that we find a good balance between the needs of the community and the needs of the importers.
Okay, so I guess as a economy, you want to keep the business going.
Correct.
At the end of the day, yes. In terms of how are we going to ensure that these businesses are utilizing the lists?
Okay, we have our regular controls, so our regular price controls. We have economic controllers that will go out and do their controls. But we also, go ahead. But we also have a website that we are developed. Well, we have practically developed. We just need to make some little tweaks, and then we will launch it. And that would allow for the community to actually be our extra eyes, because they can go in and they can report violations. They can take pictures of the products that they see, and they can also indicate, you know, what the price is versus what the price is on the maximum price list. So we're using a two-pronged approach.
So education of the population sounds to me like part of the process, and communication.
Right.
So you will have that site that you're launching, but is there any other way that if a consumer is unsure about, hey, this price seems, because I think something that would be confusing is sizes. Sometimes the price is pegged The max price is pegged to a particular size of the product. So for me, communication in advance of,
Yes.
and then also during the process is very, very important.
Yes.
So is there a plan for that?
Yes, we definitely have a PR plan that we are working on. But I must say that we just got a presentation of the latest version of the website, and it is very user-friendly. I mean, you can see the entire list. You can search for specific items, categories, everything. So if you're literally standing in the store, you can pull up the list on your phone. You can take a picture of the item. Once you pull up the list or the product, it will show you what the price is supposed to be. So you can literally see everything right on your phone. And if what is on the shelf does not match what's on the phone, you can report a violation instantly. So it's really, we're looking to really modernize the system of maximum price controls.
Right, because I think otherwise it would be a little difficult
Correct.
for your limited inspectors to
Correct.
get that done.
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. Are there any challenges that you see moving forward in terms of this whole project?
I do think that it may become a bit of a burden for us to continuously update prices. So at some point, we're going to go through a testing phase, probably for a few months. And at some point, we may have to make a decision as to how we're going to calculate these prices moving forward, if we're going to implement, like Curacao, maximum margins instead of maximum prices. Those are the kind of discussions we will have to have, in the next, over the next few months, yes.
Okay. If you've just joined us, this is Prime Minister Talks, and we're talking about the economy, we're talking about inflation, regulation of prices, and if you want some more information from the ETT department, you come right back.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
Did you know that the Consumer Price Index average over a period of 12 months in 2021 is 103.91 compared to 101.11 for 2020. This equates to an annual inflation of 2.8% in 2021. After a growth of 10.5% in 2019, the real gross domestic product decreased from 2.6 billion guilders in 2019 to an estimate of 2.1 billion guilders in 2020. This 17.9% decline was mainly due to the economic impact of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, our social and demographic data needs to be updated. Everyone needs accurate and reliable data to make an informed decision. If this is not the case, it can lead to faulty predictions, wasted time, money, and resources. Accurate data increases the level of confidence to make better decisions, enhances productivity, efficiency, and reduces cost. To conclude, accuracy and reliability make better data, which means a better life.
This message has been brought to you by the Department of Statistics and the Department of Communication.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs.
Welcome back to Prime Minister Talks. This is the last segment for this episode with the ETT Department Head, Valia Pontiflet, giving us a bit of an insight into the work that they're doing to regulate prices and other issues that we might face here on the island in regulating the economy and ensuring that we have an economy that is business friendly as well. So meeting the needs of the community, but still not trying to run the businesses, right? The awareness of the consumer, we talked about a communication plan and making sure that the consumer, the people of St. Martin are aware of, what is there. I know in the past we would publish the prices in the different supermarkets. That was also a strategy that ETT is using.
Yes.
So what is then your suggestion to the consumer in terms of being a smart shopper?
Well, it's all about choices. Again, we are in a crisis, so make smart choices. Not everything is a need, not everything is a necessity, right? So we have to really be careful, but be wise in what we choose to, buy, consume. I don't want to tell people how to spend their money, but, if you're going to complain about prices, then at least choose, wisely. And one of the ways in which you can do that is by not being so brand sensitive. So there are, for example, Cost You Less, has a lot of generic brands. Costco. There are more and more generic brands. We're seeing them on the market. So people, I would say, try out those brands and see if they meet your taste and or your liking, because they are more affordable and they usually have more or less the same quality from my personal experience then. So to me, that's what people should really focus on. Shop around and also shop smart.
Yes, and I know I grew up with a parent that did that. They would buy meat at this supermarket, vegetables at that supermarket, and I'm like, yeah, but all the gas though. Mm-hmm. So is that something to take into consideration? And then also persons who may be not tech savvy, wouldn't, have a phone to be able to look up, the app that you were talking about to get the information on the max price list. How are other ways available for, say, the not tech savvy people to be just as aware?
Okay, so we will be publishing the list separately, so it's not just going to be available on the website. So persons can, for example, get it from the newspaper. They can clip it out and keep it with them in their purse, for example, or a wallet. And then once they're shopping, they can just make reference to the list. That's one way. We mentioned WhatsApp, for example. I mean, you need to be somewhat tech savvy, but I think every age group uses WhatsApp, even if they're not so tech savvy. So that's also a way that we can, if you notice a violation, rather than going through the website, you can also send a WhatsApp message to the department and they will look into it. The response time is not instant. Please know that. We work from 8 to 5, so the response time is not instant, but there will be a response.
Okay, we'll make sure to share that information, and I know the Department of Communications works very well with ETT to ensure that this information is shared with the public and repeated and is timely. And this program will also be repeated for a week, so you can catch it at subsequent broadcasts as well. I think it's important that in this difficult time that we make choices. You mentioned it. You have a limited budget, and you have to decide what's the most important things that you have to get for your family. So indeed, moving away from the brands. I know when we live abroad, we tend to do it much easier than when we're at home. But indeed, that's one of the ways that you ensure you get your basic needs, which this basket of protected goods will have.
Right.
Okay, great. Do you have any other recommendations that you would want to give to consumers in terms of being savvy or
buy in bulk? Maybe in a community, if you have close neighbors, maybe you buy in bulk and you share it up amongst yourselves. That's one tip. I think they used to do that back in the day.
Awesome.
So that's, to me, a good way that you can also save some money. And also when we're looking at the brand sensitivity or the generic brands, like something that I do, my children, for example, they don't like any other brand of Fruit Loops except Fruit Loops. So I would buy the brand Fruit Loops, but my what do you call it, sandwich bags, my foil paper, my tissue paper, toilet paper, all of those would be generic brands. So that way you can still balance out between the brands that you like versus what's not that important.
Needed.
Correct.
Right. Okay, so I think that definitely works. Can you repeat is there already the app ready for the, not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're going through the final stages of testing, and once we're ready, we're going to include it in our PR campaign to make sure that everyone knows how to find this information.
What else is the department? So I know we worked with ETT as well with the excise tax, and even though in collaboration with finance. But how does that, in terms of build up, does that work? Because a lot of people, of course, they don't find the 15.5 cents enough of a reduction, especially as the price is going up. So maybe an explanation of that.
And that's a difficult one to explain because we wanted to offer relief, but it is difficult in the price buildup to offer relief. I saw comments about a double taxation on TOT, for example, but that is not within TIAT's control to really regulate. It just happens to be that, yes, you are taxed on both levels, and TIAT is not the authority, is not the, we're not the competent ministry to deal with that, taxes, right? We just have to go based on, we make a price build up based on what's there, how it is, what is the current situation. So with excise tax, that was the only avenue we saw that we can really add some relief or give some relief on the gas prices, because the gas prices are also very volatile. We monitor it daily. We get notices daily about the price changes. And sometimes we delay our price changes just to, accommodate.
To actually give relief.
Correct. But the problem is when we do that on that side, we have the importer, hurting. So we always have to create a balance. And in this case, the excise tax was the only avenue that was kind of within our control to do on a short term. And even with that, we had to meet some financial obligations, make sure that whatever is being lost is being put back in or compensated for. Right. So it may seem like, 15 cents was not enough, but I think per liter, yes, 15 cents per liter was not enough. But I think given government's financial situation, we are really not in a position to be able to pull out TOT, give more at this time. Yeah. And again, we are in a crisis mode. Prices will be this high globally for a period, but we are going to get over this. So I don't want people to hold on to these moments as, government isn't doing this or government doesn't care. We have responsibilities to all, not just to the population. And we cannot withhold price changes forever, despite what's happening globally. And we end up in a situation where our main importer refuses to bring in gas because we're not meeting their price change requests. So it's a very delicate, very delicate balance. And I don't think that people really understand what all goes into these decisions. And I honestly don't really expect it either. But hopefully with these types of platforms, we would be able to explain what the situation really is.
Well, Valley, I want to thank you for coming on the program to help to share this information. Government is doing all it can at this point. We're still looking at ways where electricity is concerned, how to bring some relief there. So the end is not, it's not the end of opportunities for relief, but we as government have to balance also if we're not getting income, because all of the taxes that come in is what allows us to give out to the subsidies, to salaries, to meet the needs of the population. So for us, it's also a very tough balancing act. But I thank you and the Department of ETT for what you're doing, and I look forward to your income generating and revenue generating measures that our Minister of Finance is looking for. Yes. Do continue to join us here on Prime Minister Talks as we endeavor to share information that is important to you as a population, and that we understand that we're all in this together. Stay tough, stay hopeful. We are St. Martin Strong. Until next time, I'm Silveria Jacobs.